Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the vlog, the Alliance vlog. My name is Viedamour, and I have a couple of guests with me. As promised the last time, I said I would have special guests on. So here is, I have Sylvain Rochon and Daniel Turcotte. So hello, both of you. Nice to see you. I'm going to introduce to you Daniel Turcotte. He is General Director and responsible for the Embassy for Extraterrestrial Project. And he is also President for the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact. I'll introduce to you also Sylvain Rochon. He's Vice President of the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact. He is also a biochemist, chemical engineer, and futurist who has been working with private and public sector entities from around the world. He is also co-founder of Cybermetrics and the Canadian Institute of Mass Communication in Canada, and author of Engineering Paradise, Are You Ready? So to Danielle, first question. When did the Embassy for E.T. project start and for what purpose?
Very good question. Thank you, Viedamour. So to answer to your question, the Embassy for Extraterrestrial project was created in 1974 by Maitreya Rael, who had the privilege to have a meeting with an extraterrestrial in 1973. And that extraterrestrial gave him a message for the whole humanity. And well, maybe we can summarize, but maybe later on during the program, or the people can simply go on the website, rael.org, to have more information, as we're going to focus more on the Alliance and the E.T. Embassy project as for today. So, and part of that message is to build an embassy to welcome an extraterrestrial civilization to our planet. So since that time, we, of course, started to do some actions. We created the basic plan of the embassy, very, very basic at first. And there was, I think, a press conference in 1992, something like this, in Switzerland to reveal the plan, the model of the embassy. And of course, it's not a easy project to realize, as you can imagine, you know, because there are many options that you have to consider in such a project. Of course, there is the construction itself, but before starting the construction, we have a lot of work to do. And part of this work is to make sure that the diplomatic framework will be built according to the conditions to welcome these extraterrestrials. So one of the conditions is to have a land, of course, of about 490 hectares, and the extraterritoriality, like any other embassy has on Earth. So that means diplomatic immunity. So that means that the territory of the embassy will belong to these extraterrestrial. So as you can imagine, it's not easy to have an embassy for a country in another country. So imagine the challenge to get a country to accept, to give or to sell a land to welcome an extraterrestrial on Earth. That was almost impossible even to think about it 45 years ago. But today, you know, with all the UFO sightings, the disclosures project going on all over the planet, and the people are more and more aware of the existence of, you know, other planets in the universe. I think we are now at more than 4,000 planets Maybe more. Yes, Sylvain, you're right. Maybe more. So about the embassy, that's about it. This is the challenges that we are facing now. Of course, as I told you previously, the awareness is way higher now than even 5 years ago, because we've been doing with Sylvain and the Alliance and all the team. We've been making very, very interesting contact on a diplomatic level, on a politic level, on the UFO level, on the UAP level. So yeah, it's moving and it's going to be exponential. You know, it was a little bit slow to start. We had a lot of grassroots work to do at the beginning, but now it's going to be exponential as the awareness is growing and our contacts are growing too. So yeah, it's a very, very, very enthusiastic project, and so happy to be part of it. Thank you for your question.
Wow, that's wonderful news too, because you're giving us a little bit of news ahead of time, just to see, you know, it's very encouraging, I find. I have another question, maybe for you, Daniel, or for Sylvain. What is the timeline for the construction of the embassy? Because, and when did it start? When did you start to think about it? And, you know, what's the whole timeline until the extraterrestrials come?
That's a good question for you, Daniel.
No problem. You know, I talked about the team before, and we have one amazing person who is a professional, is building cities in the what's the name of the country? UEA?
The United Arab Emirates.
Emirates,
UAE.
yeah, he's working there, and he's building cities in the desert. So he's a specialist, he's an expert of this kind of project. But you know, we never built an embassy for extraterrestrial before, so it's a first, that's for sure. So a few years ago, we worked together to make a timeline that we presented to the promoter, and it was accepted. So the first step is the step we are in right now, is the diplomatic step. That means that before 2022, we hope that we will be able to find at least one country that will support the embassy project and the optional protocol that maybe Sylvain could talk about in a few minutes. So this is the first step. So we've been working on it for the last 3-4 years, I would say, more intensively. So if everything is going fine, and I think it will happen, in 2022, we should have the first country supporting officially the project. And you can imagine that from there will be a domino effect, and some other countries will join. We're pretty sure about that. And even if it doesn't happen, doesn't matter. The only thing we need is one country for now. It would be better if we have more, of course, but one country would be a great step forward. Then it's the other step would be to all the legal thing around it. Once we find the country, we will have to discuss about that, all the legal aspect of the project, because let's imagine that the country is saying yes, there are some elections, and the new government is saying no, we don't want to hear about that project. So no, you can make sure that it will be very strong on the legal aspect. So that would be very important also. And then we're gonna do what we call the scoping study. That means trying to find the best location within the country that will be hosting the project, to find the best place, and from there be able to evaluate the cost of the project, because if it will depend if there are infrastructures or no, if there are some roads going there, what's the size of the airport, what kind of land the embassy will be built on, and what kind of materials are available in this country, and all these kind of things will be done. This is what we call the scoping study. And then the embassy will start to be built. And from the first shovel of soil, it should take about 3 years to build the embassy, but it could be shorter depending on what materials we're going to use, if it's prefab or not. We don't know yet. It's a little bit too early to answer that question. What we know is that the cost, as for today in US dollars, should be around $50 million, but it could be more. It could be more because there will be a scale model so that tourists can visit an embassy beside the real embassy. So it will become a very, very, I think, a very important touristic destination for the years to come. And even before the extraterrestrials arrive. But imagine after the extraterrestrials arrive, it will be by millions that the people will come to see, just to see a UFO, landing and hovering, and that will be fantastic. Just on material explanation, but it will be more than that, of course, because these extraterrestrials will bring their science, of course, and their wisdom. And I can't wait to meet them, I hope, and at least to see them, even if it's from far. And I'm dreaming, but my role is to dream, yes, of course, but it's also to be very well grounded, because if you're only in the dream and your head is in the star, it's beautiful, but this is not the way we will realize this project. We have to be very grounded. And this is what I have to discipline myself to do. So I don't know if it's more clear about the timeline. People can, if they want more specific information about the timeline, they can go on the Alliance website that you can see down the screen right now in the description. And they will have all the information from the beginning of the project to the arrival of the extraterrestrial civilization.
They can go also to the etembassy.org.
Absolutely.
Also, I will put it underneath the description eventually.
Wonderful.
So, well, thank you so much, because it's my dream too, and I think it's Sylvain Rochon's dream too to welcome the extraterrestrials, and can't wait to be there. I have to keep myself young and in shape. And for Sylvain, maybe it's more questions that you can answer, or even Daniel, maybe he can complete the answers if he needs to. When was the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact founded, and for what purpose? Well, we heard Daniel saying the purpose of it, but when was it founded?
Yeah, there's an additional piece of information, because like what Daniel was describing is the initiation of the E.T. Embassy project in 1974. So that project has been raising funds, making awareness, making waves, making contacts for a long time. But the Alliance is very young. The Alliance was only created in January 2021, last year, so barely a year old. And yet the project has been going on for it's over 40 years prior, right? So the reason why we created the Alliance now is because it's become clear, because of disclosure, because of kind of where the world is at now, and they're thinking, no, most of the population now accepts, like a majority of people now accept that there are extraterrestrial beings out there somewhere, and a subset of that believe that they're here, they're visiting, they're communicating with us, or they're around, and watching, for example. And that brings to light on the idea that this project has been going on with a certain very niche people that have this strong passion but that were criticized and ridiculed for thinking about, well, let's build an ET embassy in 1974. But now it's brought it to more of the mainstream kind of schema. So we thought, well, now that the rest of the world is kind of ready for this idea to participate and support it, let's build an organization that can kind of reach out and bring them all into communication with each other, and also facilitating, because we're kind of reaching out to bigger numbers, right? It's not just a subset of the population that are really passionate, it's everybody now. So we needed kind of a container of passion to support the project. That's now the project becomes, from one member, becomes a project for everybody, for the whole planet. So that's the idea behind the alliance. It's about everybody participating in building the embassy. So we're kind of all the organizations that are supporting the alliance are pulling their resources and their passions and their activities for similar goals that are synergistic, right? So they all support the construction of the ET embassy, which is the founding idea behind the alliance. But also they have, other initiatives that are helpful to the movement, like, CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. Like, they have some of our groups focus on that. Some of them are more about consciousness, about talking about mindset change and evolution as a species towards more of a golden age of cooperation, economic changes, paradism, which is the removal of work and consumerism and things like that. So there's all these groups that they're supporting the project, but are also preparing humanity in all their different aspects towards that visit. Because we have to realize and be grounded here. If we build a structure, right, a landing pad for UFOs, and think they're going to come just because we build something you made out of wood, no. They've been around for a long time. They're waiting for us to wise up and to get organized and kind of to agree that, yes, we want them to come here, but agree as a collective, as a humanity. So that's why we created the alliance. So, well, reaching out to, it must be the project of humanity, not just for one group. It's everybody. So everybody that are supporting the alliance are collaborating with our efforts that are more diplomatic, right, to convince politicians and diplomats that, yes, let's do these discussions at the United Nations. Yes, let's agree as a nation to host the ET embassy and give extraterritorial land to this project to this civilization they're not connected with. So the time is just right for that because of the thought process inside the population. And now through our actions, we're hoping we are accelerating that thought change inside the communities into being more accepting, into thinking that aliens that would come here are peaceful and want good things for us. They want to meet us and things like that. So it enables and accelerates the whole project towards its end, which I'm not sure if we specifically mentioned it, but according to our plans, we should be finished with the construction maybe at 2030 or so. Like, if you do the math, because Daniel mentioned different timelines. So that's 8 years from now. So we got time, but it's not a whole lot. If we want to change using the alliance and other initiatives of people's minds about our place in the universe, basically, is what we're thinking, then it would be great if we can do that before the embassy is open, so that we have our brothers and sisters from space arriving right after. Right? That's the hope, and that's the dream.
Thank you so much, Sylvain. And what I was thinking also is, when the embassy will be built and when the extraterrestrial civilizations will come in the embassy, we will have a lot of media, but we will choose the medias that. But anyway, it's going to be worldwide news. And I think, I hope there's enough space for us to be there to welcome them because I hope that I hope the land will be large enough to include everybody that wants to be there physically. And it's great. And I know that according to the plans, there's going to be a reduced size embassy next to the original embassy. So, you know, people will be able to see what it looks and how it looks inside, and if they want to. I have probably one more question. On the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact website, it is written that the Vienna Protocol for embassies should be amended. So my question is why?
Okay,
And
I can
how?
lead this, Danielle, quickly, and then you can hop in. I've been talking about this with certain people recently, so it's fresh in mind. The Vienna Convention for Diplomatic Protocols, that is the that was signed by most nations in the world, basically the United Nations members mostly, in 1961. Okay, and that document basically manages all that the modern nations agree on how diplomatic missions should occur and what are the protections and the legal aspects of all that stuff, right? So that's the driving document for all diplomacy on the planet. But you can imagine, 1961, they didn't think, should we add language in case an extraterrestrial civilization comes by that don't have a nation? You know, no, of course not, right? So that's why it's important to make an optional protocol, because we can't really, the way it works, you can't really like modify the main document. I mean, you can, but I think it would be an extremely complicated process to do anything like that, and it would be nigh impossible. But it is possible to append, to add something. That's what we call the optional protocol. It's like, okay, well, it's something that gets added to it. So you're not changing it, you're just adding something new to it. So that's the legal understanding of it. So we're suggesting adding language that add the possibility or an extraterrestrial civilization or nation and to those laws documents, so that we would apply the same rules in relation with an ET civilization in an agreement with all the nations of the earth, because the Vienna Convention applies to everybody basically here. So this additional document would allow for that language where everything in the convention would apply to those interactions, and therefore would also apply like all the wording that applies to embassies, for example, extraterritoriality, safety, when you're on the space over ground, all that stuff, it would all apply to that new embassy for ET civs. As I have to remember, I think it was alluded to earlier, when you give extraterritoriality, you give it to the nation that will inhabit the embassy. So if we have an embassy for Nicaragua in Ottawa, I'm not sure if we have one, then if you get into the land, that's the nation of Nicaragua. You enter that land, it belongs to Nicaragua. It no longer belongs to Canada. So we're creating a space where the land belongs to a nation that we don't know exists, really, right? So that's why you have to add those protocols, so that becomes a possibility, and we can actually do that, because it has to be a gift to a nation that doesn't exist on Earth. The land becomes the land of that other civilization that arrives, and then it applies. So that's the idea. The whole purpose, in my view, of doing this is, yes, to do things by the book, right? To have all the nation states agree, okay, like legally we're bound by these rules under those conditions. But in a way, what I'm thinking is this is also a process in which we are, as human beings, can show that we are very interested in actually meeting an alien civilization by going through all these hoops and getting into the agreements, doing the meetings, and all these processes, and agreeing this is how we're gonna do this. This is how we're gonna behave and operate, right? By going through that, by succeeding going through those barriers that are usually complicated because it's government and politics and diplomacy. If we're able to go through that, then it kind of shows our friends that are watching, it's like, yep, okay, now they're ready, right? So that's my view of it. Daniel, do you have anything to add?
Oh yeah, very, very interesting, Sylvain. That's the main point of it. And you know what? Very, very important thing. They could arrive tomorrow. Mm-hmm. They have the technology to do it. They could land anywhere on the planet. You know, there's a lot of empty spaces on our planet. So it's not a problem. But they are not invaders. They don't want to invade us. They want to feel welcome to come here. So they really want to feel that humanity is ready to welcome them. And as they are not invaders, they want to be welcome according to the humans' laws. And the basics for the diplomatic relation is the Vienna Convention of 1961, like Sylvain said previously. So instead of reinventing a new protocol, we thought, what about using an existing one and just improving to include an extraterrestrial civilization into it? And we have, as for today, close to 500 diplomats, politicians, and ambassadors supporting the alliance, which is pretty impressive, considering that there are 194 countries, more or less, who signed the Vienna Convention. So yeah, it's the awareness is really growing a lot, and I am very, very optimistic about what will happen in a very near future. As I told you previously, I think 2022 will be a very, very important year for our project. And maybe, Sylvain, you could talk about the conference that you are organizing next October. So that maybe you could talk a little bit about it. I know you're really, really into it right now, so I give you the floor.
It's really important. There's the Alliance has a plan. We're just not going at it willy-nilly, right? We have a lot of volunteers. There's currently 14 organizations that are supporting us, 525,000 individuals within those organizations supporting. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of energy to it. So, but ultimately, gathering more numbers inside the alliance that are supporting is important when discussing with diplomats, right? Because diplomats are politicians. Politicians come and go based on democratic votes and things like that. And so popular opinion is important to them. So the strategy is to get the word out that this is open for the whole humanity. We're doing this. We're trying to engage with the diplomats at the United Nations and so on, and gathering support in numbers. And to do that, well, what is the better way to organize a big conference where we invite a whole bunch of people that represent communities to gather, celebrate, talk about it, and reveal where we are with the embassy. And Danielle is going to be there to present, this is in October 6th, between 6 and 10 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be online, so virtual, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to attend. And we'll have Danielle, we'll have the lead architect there, we'll have some musical presentations and a bit of art to add some levity to it. We'll have an international barrister that knows very well the international law to kind of talk about all that stuff. A bunch of leaders of the community will do a presentation to talk about where are we and where are we going as a humanity through all this. And so it's going to be a big networking event with lots of information. And between now and then, we're doing everything we can to bring awareness to the conference, to the E.T. Embassy project, and create a snowballing effect. And we will have a conference like that, and bigger every year, to keep the discussion going, to keep updating once a year what the very tangible outcomes of the project as we go, and have continued discussions. And just an opportunity to engage with exopolitics, with other people from the communities, create more followership, more people that are aware and want to follow and want to engage with different members, different supporters of their organization. Ultimately, it's to create that snowball effect.
So if people are interested, if you're interested in this conference and in anything about the Alliance for Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact or for ET Embassy, I'll put the links in the description, and it's so important. It's so important, and please come to this conference. You'll love it, I think. And anybody that wants to help, also, you can always contact Sylvain Rochon or Daniel Turcotte. So thank you so much for accepting this invitation. So important. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, and if you allow me, just one thing, it's a first. Never in the history of humanity there was a conference to discuss the diplomatic aspect of welcoming an extraterrestrial. So it's a historic event. So please be there, and support the Alliance. Support the Alliance. If you believe that the time has come to welcome an extraterrestrial civilization, let's do it. Let's do it. It's not our project, the three of us. It's our project as a humanity. So please join us, and it's going to be a lot of fun. The best is to come.
So thank you, Sylvain, and thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Viedamour, and hope to see you very, very soon.